Cool. Hey, listeners, welcome to another episode of the Earth Station One podcast. We've got a good one for you tonight. We are actually talking to our friend Jim Beard. He is joining us tonight, and we're just going to sit around and chat about some of his new projects and, just what he's into and, stuff. He's been on the show way back in the past, and he actually survived the Geek Seat. So, sadly enough,
That's right.
he's not going
10
to be able
years
to go
ago.
through 10
10
years.
years ago. It took him
What?
10 years ago before he finally said, you know what? I'm
I, I,
recovered from the Geek Seat.
I need
I
to come
think I
back
can
on
come
them.
back on now.
Exactly.
I was just a kid back then.
Weren't
we all were.
we all were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I had hair and it had color in it and everything back then. Wow.
Amazing.
It
I
is awesome to
remember
have you.
we all talked about the teachers that we hated.
Yes, we did.
I think that's right. I think that's right.
Well, I remember that, and
And
it's like,
except that one we had a crush on.
Yes.
There's always the one.
oh, of
Yeah.
course. I think there's one that every student has a crush on and everything. So, Jim, it is awesome to have you back on the show tonight, my friend. It is really
Awesome
really
to
great.
be back here. Thank you. Thank you.
And we definitely would love to hear from you guys at home. If you guys have any questions, we'll get it to Jim and everything. So please write us feedback at earthstation1.com. We definitely would love to hear from you guys. And if you remember, we're now up on YouTube. So if you get a chance, hit that subscribe and like button underneath Jim. So, it's pretty cool that, now that we're up on YouTube, you could actually see us actually talking to people and actually, see if we're interested and paying attention and, not just like going, oh, go ahead, Jim, talk. It's okay. And it will be
Yeah, because remember, I can see you guys too.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Put that phone down.
Exactly. So yeah, definitely. It's always great to, hear from you guys. And you know what? If you get a chance, please check out our friends over at Tifosi Optical. Tifosi Optical is a great sunglass company out of Northwest Georgia. And if you get a chance, check them out. And they have some great deals right now. They have, custom made sunglasses where you could pick the color of the lenses, pick the colors of the frames. And even if you have a prescription like I do, you can actually send them your prescription and they can actually tie it into your sunglasses. It's pretty awesome. And if they have a sale, you even get some great, even better deals. And especially with the year beginning, they have some pretty cool stuff coming up. And also, if you tell them Earth Station One sent you and put in the coupon code Earth Station One, you get 10% off your whole order, just not one pair, your whole order. So that's pretty cool. Check it out, TifosiOptics.com. All right, Jim, how the heck have you been? What's been going on?
So how's been the last decade?
How have you been for the last 10 years?
Okay.
Start on day one and we want to hear everything.
Well, it has been an interesting last few years, but I'm here and yeah, wow, 10 years. It's like, what have I been doing in those 10 years? There's been a few
you've been
books.
doing a lot. I've been following
Yeah.
you. I follow you on Facebook and everything. You've been doing a lot.
Why, thank you, sir. Your check is in the mail. It'll be
Remember the host.
now. I'm a writer, so it's going to be a very small check, but regardless.
Still
of
going to be
course.
bigger than
Yeah.
that
Well,
podcasting check. Come on.
I'm a comics writer. I'm used to small checks.
Okay. Yeah. I'm rich
Um,
compared to you.
right, exactly. Yeah, you've been writing, you've been editing. Now, do you have your own self-publishing as well, or do you go through other publishers?
No, well, both. Actually, at this point, boy, 10 years. Yeah, within that time, I've actually started two small press
Wow.
self-publishing companies. So I am one half of Flinch Books.
Mm-hmm.
And now, just as of last year, I am the sole proprietor of Becky Books.
Oh,
right. And do those both have certain sort of targets as far as what you published in those groups?
Yeah, like themes, you mean? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Flinch Books is me and my publishing partner John Bruning, and that's total pulp. That's our world where we came out of. So adventure, horror, science fiction, weird stuff, anything goes there at Flinch Books. And it's total fiction. We have novels and anthologies. We actually just started working on our newest anthology, the theme of which I cannot repeat here, or I would have to kill you.
Fair enough.
but
Wow.
but it's been, wow, 6 years, 6, 7 years now. But we do, basically we do 1 to 2 books a year. I mean, we're just a 2-man operation, and with us, it's totally quality and not quantity. We like to take our time and do everything right. We're really proud of the stuff that we put out, especially the covers. That means a lot to us. And in fact, Flinch kind of started because we wanted to do certain things ourselves. That we had both worked with editors and publishers before, and enjoyed the experiences for the most part, but we said, wow, we really wanted to try our hand at being in control of things, and so far it's worked out pretty well, I think. Becky Books is a little different, because it's a little more on the personal side, and I do both fiction and nonfiction through Becky Books. It's dedicated to my late wife. My wife Becky passed away in July of 2019. And since that time, I've been looking for ways to honor her, and Becky Books grew out of that. Basically, I was taking some of my own stuff that I had already done, and wanted an umbrella for that. And last year, I put out a nonfiction book about dark shadows. And that has been my most successful self-published book to date. She was a huge Dark Shadows fan, just totally since childhood. And so the whole book is memories of all those kids who ran home, quote unquote, ran home from school to watch Dark Shadows back in the day, and told me all about their recollections and memories of that show. And I got to tell you, the Dark Shadows community is just incredible. They embraced that book. I was just completely bowled over about how well that they supported that book, and it seems to be doing well.
The sort of the sort of fandom based focused books that you've been part of, whether it was the Batman series or GI Joe or Dark Shadows, those take a lot of effort, and they come at it from a different perspective. They're not episode guides, they're not like making ofs or behind the scene looks at stuff.
Right.
They're more of memories, and they're more about memories and influence and inspiration and celebration, right?
Right. Yeah, the 3 Batman books are the series is called the Subterranean Blue Grotto Essays on Batman 66. I'm a huge fan of the Adam West Batman show, and I really wanted to approach it in a really different way, something that's never been done before. And what I did is I gathered together writers. It's 3 volumes, one for each season of the show, and told these writers they each took an episode, but like you said, it's not a guide necessarily. It's a new way to look at each episode. What I did is I said, find a hook, find a way to dig down into these stories, and find a way to talk about it that is really engaging and unique. And these writers are just been amazing, that the things that they came up with. So we have somewhere someone goes through and talks about and says, hey, look at this, and this is fun, and did you ever think of that kind of a thing? And then I've had writers who have said, I'm going to look at it from the point of view of one of the characters. And I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. There's a Mad Hatter episode that has this professor character in it. So the writer of that particular essay actually wrote it as that character. It's like their
Nice.
log, and the character is sort of a broad representation of a German person from how we might have talked by a stereotypical German person in the 60s, but they actually wrote it in that way that it actually comes through in that. Just so much fun. So much fun that we finished all 3 seasons of it, and now this year I'm starting to look at it and it's like, how can I keep the Subterranean Blue Grotto books going? So I'm actually
Right.
looking at some new ways of doing that. And then with the Dark Shadows book, it's actually now part of a series. There's 3 books so far, and those are called Memories from Today's Grown-Up Kids. And it's just like what I was describing, where we take a theme and we get a bunch of writers and we say, think back, you were a kid, this is the theme, dig down into that and give us all of those memories and recollections about that theme. And what you're supposed to do is paint a portrait of those times. Make the reader think that they're back in those times. Tell us about, playing with G.I. Joe, but not only that, but what else were you doing at that time? The same with Dark Shadows. Okay, you watched Dark Shadows, but did you have a snack while you were watching Dark Shadows? And if so, what was the snack like? And talk about things like that. It's been so much fun. So the 3rd volume just came out, and that's Rising Sun Reruns. So first volume is G.I. Joe, 2nd volume Dark Shadows, and the 3rd one is all those great imported Japanese TV shows.
Oh, I used to
Oh,
love those. Those were awesome. Those
Yeah,
were great.
so I mean, we're getting everything from Ultraman to Johnny Sacco and his flying robot, Astro Boy, Battle of the Planets, Space Giant, Speed Racer, Robotech, Voltron, Kimba the White Lion, and all that. So it's not
Marine
just
Boy,
live
all
action
those. Yeah.
shows.
Those were all like,
Exactly.
as soon as I got home from school, I was planted in front of the TVs, and I was the perfect age for it too, and everything. And then
Yeah.
when I went back and watched Lion King, with my son when it was like, wait a minute, this story looks familiar. It's like, wait a minute, does the word Kimba
Yeah,
mean anything
it's
to
funny.
you?
Becky was a huge Kimba the White Lion fan when she was a kid, and she really liked Lion King. I remember when it came out, and then I remember the first time that it came up that somebody started drawing the comparisons, and we're like, yeah, you're right. That's very interesting. Not wanting to say anything bad about Disney because we were huge Disney fans at that time, but it is strikingly similar.
Oh, very much
Those
so.
those that say bad things about Disney do so on their own peril, right?
Yeah.
Certainly not
Our
going to do
mouse
anything on that
overlords are
podcast.
always listening.
Oh
Ooh.
man, tell me about it. Yeah, for me it was that's a topic I can definitely get behind. For me it was like racing home with one of my best friends at the time in junior high, and we would always race home to see the next episode of Star Blazers. And it was just like it was so, and it's still, I mean, the show is good. I've watched it several times since then, but the nostalgia that it takes me back to me and my friend Billy, like just watching it, like running home, literally like racing home to see it on, to catch the new chapter, because this was just on the brink of having VCRs. And I mean, if you missed it, you missed it. Like it was gone.
Damn, Michael, we should have had you in this book then.
No,
Well,
that was great about it because literally, so, and we had a problem because where I lived, sometimes they didn't show things in order.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, wait a minute, that person, how did that person die? I didn't see that episode, and I swear I watched it yesterday. That type of thing.
It's not like today, like MeTV shows every single show in complete order.
Right.
Right.
No matter what, and that's great. But to try to explain to maybe to a younger person today that it was so haphazard, Batman's a great example. My whole thing was I'd sit down to watch Batman in the 70s, and I used to pray. It's like the animated opening would come on, and it was like, please let Batgirl swing down. Please let Batgirl swing down. Because you wanted a Batgirl episode. Funny thing is that much later in life, as you matured into an adult, you
You
discover
really
that the third season of Batman is maybe
not the
not so
best.
great.
Right.
But
I understand
to
that
this
completely.
day, I still have not seen how Robin gets out of that giant clam. So I don't know.
That's actually part of my favorite episode. That's a 3-part episode in second season that begins with the first part is called the Zodiac Crimes, and it's nothing to do with the current Batman movie.
No.
No, not at all.
No, not at all. But yeah, that's where Joker sticks sticks Batman and Venus, his former Mall, and Robin in that tank, and then the giant clam comes in and eats him. Mark Waid, comic legend Mark Waid, told me the funniest story, that he watched that originally as a kid and believed it up one side and down the other. He said he was totally sure that that was it for Robin, and that when he would come back to in that next episode, that Robin was probably going to be dead. And I just love that, because
Could be a giant pearl.
that's childhood, you know what I mean? And that's the vibe that we're tapping into with these books. It's exactly like both of you have described, that whole feeling of being a kid and everything is so new and cool, and you don't have a lot of other distractions. It's like TV was everything, and you love these shows, and sometimes you had no idea what was happening, because like you said, they showed them out of order. And Batman was that same way. I had no idea. They just, I don't know, they just somehow threw the tapes up in the air and said, put this one on today.
Absolutely. With those anthologies, I know because I've participated in anthologies and I've been editing and publishing a couple of anthologies. And the good part of
My
doing
condolences to you.
I was going to say the good part about doing an anthology is when you get the stuff in and you read it and you're like, oh, that's beautiful. That's a one of a kind thing that I wasn't even, that's better than I could have hoped.
Yeah.
The not so good thing is like waiting for it to come in, cat wrangling, if you will. Yeah, how do you keep all your hair and still do these books?
Well, as you can see, it's
mine's gone. That's why I wear a hat, man. Mine's gone.
That's why he wears the hat all the time, too.
Exactly.
You and Mickey Dolenz, who always wears a hat now because he's practically bald. You know, Michael, that's funny because it's going on right at this very, very moment. Volume 4 of the Memories from Grown Up Kids is well underway, and the new volume is Memories of Growing Up Playing all those great tabletop classic role-playing games.
Yeah.
And I'm in the middle of essays coming in right now, and I just had one today that was just so fantastic and hit it right on the nose of exactly what I wanted. It's an essay by a guy who loved the Marvel superhero game from
Okay.
from the 80s, and I really love that one too. And he did it to me that I was reading it, and it was like all the memories that just came flooding back. Like, that's, if this happens while people are reading these books, then we've all done our jobs. I'm reading it and I'm going, yeah, that's me. Oh my God, yeah, we did that too. Oh yeah. Oh wow, I thought we were the only ones that did that. And that's just a perfect world. Then you get the dark side where it's like you're emailing and messaging writers saying, hey, do you got an ETA yet on that essay? And because you don't want to bug them too bad.
Right. Because a lot of them are doing it for, we'll just say less than top dollar.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. One thing that John and I are proud of with Flinch Books, and then me with Becky Books, is that we are to the point where we can actually pay something. We're not asking people to do, free work. It's not a lot, but we've gotten to that point where we can actually do that. Fiction, we're able to do a little bit more. Nonfiction, 2,000 to 2,500 word essays, maybe not so much, but we are paying something, and I found that makes all the difference in the world, and especially when you're going to somebody who maybe has a little more of a name for themselves, that sort of, they can feel better about that they don't have to have that word get out there that they've done,
Oh, they've done
some free
comp work or whatever.
you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've always hated, and we're going back to the beginning of Flinch, and unfortunately it was, hey, can you take a 10% royalty, backdoor kind of a thing, and you don't feel that great about that thing. But when you're getting started, sometimes that's the only way to get started, and especially if you're paying for a cover, you're paying for formatting if you're not able to do your own formatting, some design work. But like I said, today it's not like that, and we're putting out some good stuff, and we're really getting some really nice work coming in. But yeah, herding cats is a good is a good phrase.
Oh yeah, I have enough cats to know that it's very similar.
When I run a
very
podcast
similar.
network, it's pretty much the same thing too. So
Yeah, that's true.
But I love it.
Mhm.
The satisfaction of getting this and holding it in your hand and saying, I did this, is just every single time. I just last year was 20 years of me being a professional writer, and it never, ever, ever, ever gets old. It's like every time I get one of these, I say, oh my God, this is just like the first time. It feels like I've never had done this before. And this is just amazing that I can do this. And I
Yeah.
like to tell people it can be done. I'm as low tech as it possibly, get. I have a little hamster in a wheel running, powering my laptop right here,
Right.
right? And I somehow have managed to publish books.
that's
And
awesome,
publish good
dude.
books too.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Well, thank you.
The
check's in
angle,
the
the
mail, Mike.
approach, the
No, wait a minute. He's only getting one check, for all the nice things that he says tonight. It's just one check. I'm sorry, Mike.
the approach is unique, and I think and worthy of it. It's one of those things. It's like I'm like, damn, I wish I thought of it.
Then again, I have done my job, because I do that when I see a title or an idea from somebody else, and I say, I wish I had thought of that. So if somebody says that to me about one of my books, that's one of the highest compliments that I think I can get.
I also agree with you too. There's no better feeling than opening that box from the publisher, the printer, whatever, and seeing that. It's just the thrill. And also when you do work, as you were saying, when you do work at, like, for anthologies, it's kind of cool. On the one hand, you're like, you look at the cover, you look at the book, and you're like, wow, look at this. I edited, like, and there are people who you respect. Sometimes there are people who, like, you idolize, that have participated in your book, and
Yeah.
you're like, that's really cool. But then there's also those names that this is their first thing that they've ever published, and
Yes.
they're so excited, it's infectious.
Yeah, yeah. And I try to do both of those things with every book that I actually put out as an anthology, fiction or otherwise. I try to get somebody who I love their work, and like you said, maybe they're, a writing hero of mine. And then I also do try to get at least one or two people that maybe haven't put out that much stuff, or yeah, it's their first time. That happened with Rising Sun reruns. Uh, I'm not gonna say who it is. This is because I have never said this before in public. My son is in this book, so nepotism
Oh.
alert.
Okay.
But he
You're
actually
allowed.
did an essay for this book, and he had had a fiction short story published before this. So this is like the second time that he's been published. And if he wasn't like, if he didn't share my DNA, I would still say, wow, like he did a great job on the essay. I remember telling him, it's like, wow, I barely had to edit this thing. Good job. You chip off the old block there.
All right, so we've talked about your sort of nonfiction anthology work that you've done recently. What about fiction? Where do you stand? What's the latest release on that? What's something that you've got coming out on that?
I think the last fiction thing that I had out was a bucket list character, a new Zorro anthology.
Oh, very
Oh,
nice.
sweet.
Last year from Bold Venture Press. They have the official Zorro license, and I think they had done just one new fiction anthology before. They're reprinting all of the original Johnston McCulley
Okay.
stuff, which has really, been fantastic to have all of that. They did one new Zorro fiction anthology, and I was supremely jealous of everybody who was in that, because some of them were friends of mine. Notice I said were friends of mine.
Oh,
Whoa.
but I had approached the editor Audrey Parent and had said to her, like, yeah, if you do another Zorro anthology, and she's like, yeah, all right, whatever, we have your number, don't email us, we'll email you. Lo and behold, she emailed
She
me
did.
and said, we're going to do another Zorro anthology, do you want in on it? And I said, yes, of course. And so that was a real treat to do that. I actually refreshed my Zorro-ness by reading some of the original Johnston McCulley stuff to get
right.
that feeling, because I'm the kind of guy, like, if I'm going to do a character like Zorro, I'm not going to like put my spin on it or do some kind of crazy, Zorro in outer space or whatever. And I said I really want it to feel like the original stuff. And Audrey came back, and after I had handed it in and talked a little bit about it, she had said that it did feel like that. And I think there was a review also that said that too. So that's a recent fiction thing. I'm working on the third book of my DC Jones and Adventure Command International series, and that's through Becky Books. That's the GI Joe Adventure Team pastiche.
Okay.
For lack of a
Okay.
better word, that I do. That actually, the first book was originally an actual GI Joe Adventure Team story that was published through the Kindle Worlds platform. I don't know if you
Oh, I
guys
remember
remember
that.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
way back when, for a few years, you could publish e-stories through on Amazon through the Kindle Worlds platform in several different licenses. I think the most prominent one, though, was GI Joe. It was ostensibly set up for people to publish Real American Hero GI Joe stuff, the 80s, 90s toys and all of that. And when I first saw that, I emailed the Hasbro rep that was listed as one of the ones that was like overseeing this whole thing, and I said, it doesn't say anywhere that we can't do other kinds of GI Joe. I said, what about Adventure Team? Because that's where I live from the early 70s. And she came back and she said, yes, the only thing that you cannot do was at that point, I think it was only the one movie, the whatever that first movie was called. I can't remember. Was it Rise of Cobra or?
I think so.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
She said you can do anything but that, and I'm like, great, because I don't want to do that. And I was fulfilled one of my dreams, another bucket list thing there, to be able to write a official GI Joe Adventure Team. And I loved it because for a little while I was the only guy. It was like there was hundreds of GI Joe Real American Hero stories up on this platform, and then there's just me and my Adventure Team story. But I got one of the best responses from readers that I had ever gotten to that point, and was selling a lot of it. It was a novella, and then I did a short story, and then the platform was disappeared. They took it down, they ended the whole thing, and they let us know that we own the stories, but we did not own, of course, the characters,
Oh,
the
right.
IP part of it. It's like, at that point I said, well, little good that does anybody. I don't, what are you talking about? But so it sat around for a couple years and I got sick of it literally just sitting in limbo. So I did what any good writer would do, and I just changed the names of everything for the most part, and
Right.
recreated it as something of my own, as an both an homage to those toys, and then a way to have a really fun pulpy adventure series set in the mid 1970s, and that
Hmm.
became DC Jones. So there's two main full books out right now. And then just last year I put out a very thin volume of a collection of short stories called Action Accessories, DC Jones Action Accessories. And
Nice.
then like I said, I'm working on the third volume, and it kind of will complete a trilogy, an overarching trilogy.
Hmm. Hmm. How does 2023 elsewise look up for you? Anything else that you can sort of hint at, or?
So the plan right now is to do maybe 2 volumes of the Today's Grown Up Kids series. So the role playing one will be first half of 2023, and then another one for the back half of 2023. I got to get this DC Jones book out. Flinch Books is just starting down the road of putting together a new fiction anthology, so we're gonna hope to have that by mid-year, June or July. And then we just engaged with a writer who's going to do a full novel of a Flinch Books property. We're hoping that might be out by the end of the year. And I don't know. Some things are kind of up in the air. I want to do a fiction anthology with Becky Books, which we haven't done yet. Or I say we, it's just me. I haven't done yet, and that is probably going to be a horror anthology.
So you
Um,
answer so many people inside your head. That's the thing.
I know. Well, it's funny. I sort of do. I have a guiding spirit on everything that comes out from Becky Books. The unofficial tagline of that is cool books she would have loved.
Nice.
So yeah, I always run things through my head and ask that guiding spirit, like, would you have liked this? And if the answer comes back with an enthusiastic yes, then that's a good fit for
Nice.
what I do.
That's
Nice
awesome.
tribute. So because I know that last time you were here, it's funny, I wish I'd gone back, and I should have gone back and listened to your Geek Seat segment, because I would be curious to know at that time 10 years ago what your ultimate geek fantasy was, and I could ask you how much closer you were to doing your ultimate geek fantasy.
I I wonder what it was. Huh.
Yeah, now I'm gonna have to go back and look, but it sounds like, I mean, like I said, I know that you've been especially with everything that's been going on with the world and everything, like it's amazing how productive you've been, especially over the last couple of years. And like I said, um bringing with your nonfiction books and those anthologies, bringing memories back to people, or people who've never had experienced them, have being put in the world,
Yeah.
and in that nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just it's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good point, that not only are we hitting the people that did live through all of that, but yeah, I'm hoping that maybe there's some people, a little younger, who for some crazy insane reason, like the Batman 66 TV series, and can enjoy those books, or maybe they're just now discovering Dark Shadows because of a parent or a grandparent, and want to know what it was like when that stuff was new. So yeah, it can hit on 2 levels there, definitely.
Yeah, they're like little time capsules.
Yeah, good, another good one.
So
You ought to be a writer, Mike.
I
I've been
am.
saying that for years. I've
Yeah,
been telling him.
not published very much, but I'm trying. But
Remember,
any
quality, not quantity.
that believe me,
Yeah.
that's
Don't
I
don't do like me in my so-called career where it's all it's quantity and not quality.
believe me, the people who are waiting on my current Kickstarter project, and which is vastly overdue, like, are really hoping that the quality lives up to it,
Okay,
which I'm trying to make sure that it does. So
good.
thank goodness for Kickstarter. Most of your projects some of your projects have been done on through Kickstarter as well, right? Crowdfunding.
Have I, you know what?
Have you done some?
No, maybe only one. I'm thinking
Okay.
there's only, yeah, I mean, I personally haven't done one, but I think Bob Greenberger and Crazy Eight Press have been doing Kickstarters for their thrilling adventure yarns,
Yes, that's what
those
I was
pulp
thinking of.
anthologies. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
was in the first one of those. That I'm pretty sure was a Kickstarter. I don't know if I've actually been.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's
I
it's
haven't
a
done one.
it's a can of fish, I'll tell you that. It can be a can of worms, it can be a can of something else. It's like it's I'm
It can be
glad for the support that I got, though.
it can be a can of whoop ass.
Yeah, it can definitely be a can of whoop ass.
Yeah, that's probably
Not
why I haven't done one because I'm scared to death of doing something.
it's crazy. But so where can people go to find out where they get your books now, to where to keep an eye out for the books of the future, to keep an eye on what you're doing, where can they go online?
Well, first and foremost, if you want the books, please head up to Amazon, put my name in under books, and almost everything of mine will come up there. There's two books that you can't get on Amazon, and I'm going to direct you to where you can go, and that would be my Green Hornet novel and my Kolchak the Night Stalker novel. Those you have to go to Moonstone. So that's moonstonebooks.com. And you'll see the Green Hornet, How Sweet the Sting, and Kolchak, The Last Temptation, are both there and not on Amazon. And then otherwise, to get news on stuff that's coming out, head over to Facebook. And the Flinch Books page is called Flinch Books, and we talk about everything that's coming out and everything that is out there. And then for Becky Books, it's actually called the Jim Beard and Becky Books page. And you're going to get news about Becky Books publications, but then also things of mine that are not, Becky Books. So we talk about both there. The Subterranean Blue Grotto essay series has its own Facebook page under Subterranean Blue Grotto essays. And then I'm on Twitter. As long as Twitter is still there, I'm at writer Jim Beard there.
That is awesome.
Awesome. And real quick, we also, before we started recording, we were talking about your newest venture into podcasting, discovering the wonderful world of Doctor Who. And when do you know when that's going to be released or anything like that, or as far as the podcast that you're doing with John?
Yeah, my podcast companion, to borrow a Doctor Who term, John S. Drew. We're recording this Wednesday the 11th, and if I'm not mistaken, John will have it out the following week. If you want to get in on the ground floor, Facebook, it's called The Doctor's Beard. And I don't shoot the messenger. I didn't name the podcast. John came up with that, and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. You realize that what like saying a beard is
I'm not even touching.
like,
I was not even touching that one.
and he's like, yeah, right, no. And he tried to explain something to me about how that fits in with Doctor Who, and then I said, okay, I'm gonna just trust you on this one. It has my name in it, so it can't be that bad. But yeah, the Doctor's Beard podcast, and you're gonna see right off the bat, as soon as the first episode goes up, you'll be right there on the ground floor for that one. We're actually going to do every episode of the podcast is going to be a storyline, and we are literally starting from the beginning and going in order. So the very
Nice.
first episode will be William Hartnell, who just celebrated a birthday, and an unearthly child, that first 4-part storyline, which I just finished watching today, actually, just a little while ago. So I'm new to Doctor Who, and John is steeped in Doctor Who, so it should be really interesting playing off of each other, that I know practically nothing and he knows everything. So, so I'm the ignorant and he's the doctor. I'm the ignorant
Right.
companion.
Wow.
Well, it sounds awesome.
I'm Ian to his doctor.
People will get that, especially if they listen. And it's a great way to celebrate Doctor Who's 60th anniversary, which is this year as well. So
Absolutely. Yeah. See
very
how that
cool with
works?
with all the cool things that you're doing. Very exciting. I promise that it will not be another 10 years before we have you back.
Okay. 9 years and 9 months, right?
We'll see you sometime, probably in what, 2032, and probably late summer. It'll be good.
Wow, crossing our fingers that we're all here.
We'll be holograms then, so it'll be perfect.
Yeah.
I was actually speaking of the entire world still being
It's true. It's
And
true.
I still mean
Yeah.
we'll be holograms. It'll be good.
Oh, okay.
Let's take a
You never
quick
know.
break, and we will be back in a moment to close up the show. All right, and this is the part where we actually talk to our YouTube listeners, and we actually, just have a different topic. So when you said you were doing your Doctor Who podcast, did you watch with the first episode? Did you watch the pilot and then the actual episode also?
I did it the other way around. I watched the actual episode and then watched that, whatever that thing is, that that uncut with the different the different takes or whatever it was, and it was fascinating. And I made note of some differences, and especially in dialogue. That was really interesting about, especially with how the dialogue, as a writer, to see how the dialogue changed.
It was real interesting that they did that, because the odds are, truthfully, if Kennedy wasn't assassinated, because that's why they didn't air the pilot and everything, they did it again a couple days later with the other version.
Yeah.
And they said there's a good chance Doctor Who wouldn't have survived.
Wow.
And everything with
Wow.
it. So it was real interesting to see.
One of the things that I actually made a note of, and I want to bring up when we record, is Susan has an interesting line where they go into the TARDIS and she's trying to sort of explain. Actually, she's kind of putting Barbara and Ian down for being ignorant. But in the unaired version, she says she was born in the 49th century. And then it's interesting because in the aired version, she does not say that at all. She just says she was born in the future, or many centuries from now. But I love that they had actually pinpointed it and then changed it for some reason. And she's got a completely different outfit on. She just has her regular clothes on in the aired version, but she has this sort of science fiction-y weird kind of thing on. And I mean, everything top to bottom. I mean, pants, shoes, the top, the whole thing is completely different in that. So yeah, I'm really glad that that I was able to watch that and see the evolution of it.
No, I agree completely. It's interesting, and you're going to notice little things. It's like, oh, well, this makes sense, or I could see this coming into modern Who, even.
Yeah.
There's certain things
While
I
they're
could carry
building
through.
the continuity.
Yeah.
Which literally takes 50 years.
Even though I haven't really watched classic Doctor Who, I know a lot of the tropes of it, and I've already started to spot things to say, oh, okay, wow, that was in place this early on. And then there are things that I just I don't get at all. Like, why is this first Doctor such a rat bastard?
Yeah.
he's terrible. He's like,
he's gonna kill one of the companions with a rock.
he is completely unlikable.
He wanted to leave the teachers behind.
Everything, every
Yeah.
bit about him. I mean, Susan's not a whole lot better, but at least there's some warmth in her at all. But it's a really interesting thing to do with your basically your central character, is to start right off with such an unlikable
And this was
guy.
supposed to be a children's show.
Yeah,
Which even
yeah,
made it,
yeah. And even the choice of story for the very first one was really interesting too. Again, children's show, supposed to be like about history and everything, and then they start with this prehistory thing. Like, I mean, I'm not putting it down. Again, I find it a very fascinating choice for to begin the show with that story. And then from what I understand, we go right into the Daleks, however you pronounce. Yeah, the Daleks.
Yes.
So I'm really looking forward to that.
They bounce from the past to the future, the past to the future a lot. So
yes.
Cool. Yeah, I'm charged.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's no Ultraman, but
well, have you seen Shin Ultraman yet?
Wednesday. How's that for
Oh.
an answer? I see it Wednesday night here in town. They're showing it Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday is the subtitle version, and then Thursday is the dubbed version. And even though I grew up with dubbed Japanese shows and movies, I can't do dubs anymore. I need to have it as much like the original Japanese as possible, but then be able to follow along with what's going on.
Oh, totally.
Really looking forward to it, because I'm a huge Shin Godzilla fan. And
oh yeah, that was pretty cool.
And
Shin Godzilla was gorgeous. It was just an amazing story.
It's just what a take, what I mean. And I never imagined I would like it that much, because I'm a big Showa Godzilla fan, that I don't want to hear anything, past Revenge of Mechagodzilla. And a friend of mine sat me down and he said, I think you really should watch Shin Godzilla. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And came away with just like, wow, what a take. I mean, it's not really about Godzilla. It's more about the government's reaction or non-reaction.
The ineptness of the politics and everything.
Yeah. So really looking forward to Shin Godzilla, and now crossing my fingers that Shin Kamen Rider will actually appear here in the States. And from what I understand, I guess it's supposed to, but we'll see.
I'll be very curious to see. All right, let's close up the show. And you guys ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's going to wrap up another episode of the Earth Station One podcast. Jim, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been a blast.
My extreme thank yous to you both. This has been really fun.
It's interesting because it's like everything you were talking about, from the Dark Shadows to the Japanese cartoons back in the 70s, and it's just everything. It's just like, that was me, and
this is all of us.
Yeah, exactly. And it, everyone of a certain age group lived that.
Yeah.
And everything.
Yeah, that's absolutely what it is. Yeah, definitely.
And it was amazing. And it's really cool to see somebody taking that on and taking it by the horns. And thank you for doing that. It's really cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a fun ride, and wait till you see the themes that we have coming up. I've got 2 to 3 years of themes planned out if we do 2 volumes a year. So like I said, the next one's going to be role-playing games, classic tabletop role-playing games. Nice. And then the next one, I'm not going to say what the theme is, but we're going to return to another TV show theme, but like Dark Shadows, one TV show, and I think that one's really going to hit a chord with a lot of people.
That is nice. Awesome. That is awesome. I can't wait. Anything else you want to promote or shout out about, or how can people find you?
No, just buy my books. Amazon, Amazon, Amazon.
Okay.
Please, please. And you know what? And I say this every single time, and I know all the writers and editors and publishers out there are going to stand up and say, yes, 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 is please leave a review. I know it takes some time, and I know not everybody's a writer, but you know what? We don't really care. Is if you can string a few words together into a few sentences and tell us how we're doing. You enjoyed it, you didn't enjoy it, but Amazon has that rating system which drives me up the wall
Hmm.
because you get a 2-star and you have no idea what the hell that even means.
Yeah. And
It,
sometimes it's because it's shipped poorly.
yeah,
It has
yeah.
nothing to do with the contents of the book itself. It's just that no, it shipped poorly and got bent.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Now I've been lucky and I've never got the book came in damaged. It's like that has anything to do with what I did, but
Right.
but please, we beg people to leave a review, and it doesn't have to be on Amazon. It could be on Goodreads, on a blog, uh, wherever. We don't want to keep doing what we're doing in a vacuum,
Mm-mm.
or at least
Agreed.
I don't. I can't speak for everybody, but I don't want to keep doing that in a vacuum. I want to know that I'm somehow engaging readers. And again, you didn't like it, great, no problem. Let me know. I'm not going to cry, but or anything like that. But please, because that may actually inform something I do down the road and maybe try to do better.
No, totally understand that. Well, thank you kindly, sir.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mike, we've made it through another episode, my friend.
We did, and as always, it's my pleasure.
Anything you want to shout out about, sir?
I do. On the subject of review stuff, I saw my first movie of 2023, not at the theater, but a movie was released this past weekend on Netflix, and I caught it right away, and I was really anxious about it, and it was called The Pale Blue Eye, and it is a Gothic American Gothic tale. It features
Interesting.
beautiful, gorgeous cinematography,
Hmm.
solid performances by Christian Bale is in it. Gillian Anderson is in it. Lucy
Hmm.
Boynton is in it.
Hmm.
Robert Duvall, bless
Hmm.
him, 90 years old, still doing it. Um, it takes place in early America. Takes place in the early days of West Point. It involves a very young teenage, I believe, Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh,
And
that's right.
it's a
I have heard
very,
of this.
very,
Yes.
yeah, it's a very, very cool story. It's a little slow in places. Maybe I had some problems with the third act, but otherwise, it was definitely worth checking out. Like I said, it's gorgeous and it features some really good, solid performances. So I give it overall a thumbs up. And I'd say check it out.
Awesomeness. Awesomeness.
Hmm.
Awesomeness. My shout out real quick is another TV review. Um, One of my favorites is back right before we did this episode tonight. I actually got to watch the first episode of season 3 of All Creatures Great and Small, and
Nice.
brought back from PBS.
Wow.
And I love the original, but there's something even more majestic about the remake they did on Masterpiece.
Speaking
And
of gorgeous,
oh, the cinematography in this is
it's
is
really
like,
wonderful.
and we're just, Judy and I were like going, could we live in a town that small? I said, it would be interesting, but it would be, it's just, it's a simpler time. It was a whole new different way of life back then. And I love with this season because they're getting into World War II and the beginnings of it, and everyone's reactions to it, and it was just amazing to see. And there was the opening episode will leave you with a smile and a sigh. It's just like, oh, this is awesome and everything. And so I love what they're doing. I can't wait to see where they're going to go. And if you have the PBS app, you can actually watch the whole first season already, not wait all the way through weekly that they're doing on Masterpiece on TV. So that's a little bit of a plus right there. So definitely check it out. All Creatures Great and Small. So definitely, speaking of all things great and small, we are going to be back next week, of course, and we're doing a look back at Stargirl, the recently ended series, which finished its 3rd season, and sadly enough will not be coming back for a 4th. But we'll take a look at the whole series, and we'll be looking at different members of the JSA and the Injustice Society, and how it tied up into the comics and the looks of it and everything. And it should be a ton of fun to do. And it was a fun series, and I'm looking forward to it. So we definitely would love, you to join us for that, as always, next week. So as always, as we like to say, thank you for listening to the Earth Station One podcast. You can, we'd definitely love to hear from you guys. Please write us feedback at earthstation1.com. It's always great to get, feedback, as, Jim was saying. Feedback for an author is great. Feedback for a podcast is even greater.
Like and share, like and share, like and share.
Exactly. Hit the like button right below Jim. There's a big like button for our YouTube folks out there. Remember, you can find the Earth Station One podcast wherever fine podcasts are found. And now
don't push me out of the way. I'll move off the button. So
promises. He promises that. He does promise that. Earth Station One can now be found, like we said, in video format on YouTube. Please like and subscribe, and tell all your friends about us. Please, that's the best way you could do it. If you enjoyed the show, if you came here just to see Jim, and you say, hey, those 2 mics are pretty good too. We do this twice a week, folks. So definitely listen, definitely subscribe, and word of mouth is the best way to do it. Because if you put up an advertisement up on Facebook or something, that doesn't get anything. It is such a waste of money. I could, as I like to tell Judy whenever we go to Vegas, you go to the slot machines, I'll be here in the bathroom pouring coins down the toilet. Does the same thing. So, it's pretty much the same thing when you try to pay for advertising on Facebook, So on behalf of myself, Mike Faber, of course, Mr. Mike Gordon, and Mr. Jim Beard, thank you guys for listening at home. We do appreciate you, and we are looking forward to coming back to you again next week. We will see you soon. Peace. And we are done. Boom. Yay.